annual event. It doesn't seem like it will be that long, but it is really an opportunity to gather and share some information about people in our community that deserve attention. We appreciate your attendance and your support of this recognition program for persons who are from Humboldt or have strong ties to our community who carry the name of Humboldt literally around the world. If you will, for a moment, look at the back of the program and at the listing of people that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame over the past 13 years. I think it's appropriate to note that these individuals have had recognition in a wide diversity of professional pursuits, from musicians to physicians, from athletes to balloonists, from alderman to businessman, from scientist to attorney, and from teachers to ministers. A wide variety, diverse group, to say the least. This listing should remind us that this community is special and capable of producing leaders in a wide variety of professions. Also on the back of the program, you'll see a listing of the members of the Hall of Fame committee. That includes Amanda Love, Ralph Jones III, Brittany Keller, Thomas Raines, Kathleen Smith, Chance Baskerville, Mayor Marvin Sykes, and Pete Campbell. I would invite you, as you think about people in our community or from our community or have made an impact, give us your suggestions. We're always adding to our list of people to be considered for induction into the Hall of Fame, and we would appreciate any nomination that you have to be considered by the committee. In fact, I had a suggestion just in the hallway just a minute ago. So we're always adding to the list of people to be considered for this distinction. We also, on the inside of the program, you notice the sponsors for our reception: Bancorp South, Simmons Bank, Farmers and Merchants Bank, Centennial Bank, Morningstar Baptist Church, and Humboldt Utilities. Again, we appreciate their support of the outstanding reception that we had today, catered by Coyote Blues. We also appreciate the facilities here at First United Methodist Church. Alan Grant, our minister, Ben Barnett, who's upstairs with the control for our video and audio and the programs there. I also appreciate the help of Pat Barnett, who assisted with the reception downstairs. We have representatives from the festival here, Amanda and one of our staff members. We also have Mayor Marvin Sykes here, so we're glad that you all are here to share in this. We're ready to begin the program now, and I'll ask Mr. Thomas Raines, member of the committee, to give the invocation. Thomas?
Let's bow our heads, please. Almighty God, you have given us a beautiful day, as you do each and every day. We're thankful for the rain that came early this morning and in the sunshine. We're thankful for you blessing this festival as you so wonderfully do all the time. And Father, we're thankful for all of those that have given up their time and effort and talents to make this festival a success. We know that there are many, and we know that there are many that don't have their names called, but we know that this festival will not be successful without the hard work and dedication of so many. Father, we come this afternoon to recognize 4 who have made a significant difference. You've given them talents that they have used to further your kingdom and to further your name and to further the work that they have done. Father, we feel very blessed, and we thank you and we honor you, and we give you the honor and glory. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Thomas. As is true every year, we could spend all afternoon on each of the candidates to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. But since I don't think you want to spend too many hours here, I will shorten it just a little bit, and And I will try to stay with my notes. Sometimes I get carried away and get off my notes a little bit, but I will try to stay with that, keep us within a reasonable time frame. So let's begin with the presentations and the inductions into this year's Hall of Fame. First person to be inducted is Oren Brett Clay. In your program, there's a misspelling on Brett's name, so if you want to change that, that'll be fine. So I'll give you a brief summary of Brett's background, some of the things he's been involved in, and just give you a quick capsule of the reason that the committee selected Brett to be inducted. A native of Humboldt, Brett graduated from Humboldt High School in 1985, where he was involved in a number of academic and extracurricular activities, including playing saxophone in the marching and jazz band. He also played basketball on the junior varsity team and baseball as a shortstop until his junior year. In his high school career, he became a member of the Kappa Alpha Psi student mentorship program, which focused on academic accomplishments. Since he was raised in a family that emphasized education, especially by his mother, who was a teacher, Brett was expected to excel in his studies. This was proven as he earned a high score on the PSA test during his junior year and a perfect score of 36 on the math portion of the ACT test 1 year later. Brett's hard work and dedication to his studies paid off by being accepted into 3 service academies, receiving ROTC scholarship offers from all branches, in addition to 2 academic scholarships from Morehouse College in Atlanta and Princeton University in Princeton, New Jersey. Brett chose to attend the United States Naval Academy, where he graduated in 1989 with a BS degree in mathematics and operations analysis. After receiving his commission as ensign, he attended Surface Warfare Officer School in Newport, Rhode Island. Brett's first sea duty station was on board the USS Connolly, where he served as anti-submarine warfare officer and assistant combat systems officer. Later, he was selected as the navigator and remained with the warship for his second rotational tour. Subsequent sea duty assignments included combat systems officer on the USS Carr and operations officer on the USS Vincennes. During these sea tours, Brett conducted multiple deployments to over 20 countries, encompassing the Middle Eastern, Atlantic, Mediterranean, Caribbean, and Western Pacific theaters. He was truly able to see the world as a member of the United States Navy. He served in Operation Desert Storm, Operation Support Democracy, Operation Desert Fox, and Operation Iraqi Freedom. He earned personal and organizational level battle efficiency awards during each tour. During his shore duty assignments, Brett served as senior analyst for NATO and later served in the Pentagon as manpower analyst for the Chief of Naval Operations. He was combat deployed to Baghdad, Iraq, a specialized high visibility assignment in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Prior to retirement, Brett served as Assistant Deputy Director and Executive Assistant to the Information Technology Resource Management Director. Lieutenant Commander Clay received numerous military awards. It included Meritorious Service Medal, Navy Commendation Medal 5 times, Army Commendation Medal, and Navy Achievement Medal. He holds a master's degree in management from Troy University and a master's degree in information systems technology from George Washington University. Since military retirement, Brett has continued his service to the nation within the national security and federal information technology arena and currently serves as a technology management consultant to multiple Homeland Security agencies. He serves his community through a number of community-focused nonprofit organizations and foundations. He is married to the former Josephine Belmonte and is the father of 2 children, Belinda and Rich. We know him locally as the son of Bobby and Myra Barnett. In recognition of his outstanding military career and continuing support to the security of our country, the 2019 Humboldt Hall of Fame inducts Lieutenant Commander Oren Brett Clay.
Good evening. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Barker, for the introduction. I can't say enough about how honored and grateful I am for this recognition. It's very humbling to be recognized alongside such incredibly accomplished people throughout the years, as well as this year. Second honor is second only to my honor of being called to war and service for our country. Americans like you that providing beacon, a North Star, a point of reference for us, for service members who are out there deployed, providing that point of reference where we can all make our way back to home as we come back from combat. I want to give a special thanks to the Humboldt Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much to Mr. Barker and the team at the Humboldt Chamber of Commerce for recognizing me with this incredible award. I'm thankful and so lucky to be blessed. And this is more than just an honor for me. It's like a new beginning. I believe that everything happens for a reason, and everything we do is intended to have a greater impact on other things. There's another saying, to whom a lot is given, a lot is expected. And I'm thankful to my parents for always being there, my wife and wonderful children, my daughter and son, Belinda and Rich. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here tonight, but they're here with me in spirit. Thanks to them for sticking with me through those deployments and years of separation. All of my extended family members, cousins, aunts, many of them are here tonight. My friends, including my classmates and my hundreds of Facebook friends throughout out there. And let's me never forget my shipmates and fellow soldiers that served with me, including those who paid the ultimate sacrifice and those that didn't make it back, and those who are still working their way back home. They're also here with me in spirit. It's good to be home. Ironically, this church is a very fitting venue. I used to come here as a child for Cub Scouts, weekly Cub Scout meetings with my mother. There was springs back some of my fondest childhood memories of Humboldt. I always remember saying that there's a saying that you have to know where you came from to know where you're going. I think in his bio he mentioned I was a navigator, so I used to always use that as a point of reference as I plotted the fixes for the ships to travel all over the world. Humboldt, strawberry capital of the world. West Tennessee Strawberry Festival home. Some of my fondest memories growing up here were marching in the Strawberry Festival. I was in the band, so I was in every Strawberry Festival. Picking strawberries on my grandfather's farm, eating sweet potatoes pie with my other grandfather. Playing horseshoes at Campbell Park, swimming at Spangler Park, learning to play tennis at Bailey Park, even hanging out on the cross on occasion. I had the privilege of coming back a few years ago to speak to the annual Boys and Girls Club Birds and Burger Dinner. I really enjoyed that. I recognize a lot of you here that were there tonight as well. Some of my life watchwords: faith, community, family, and service. I made a choice to leave 35 years ago to serve my country. It's been an honor and a privilege that I'm extremely grateful for. Lord knows I wouldn't be breathing here today if it weren't for God, my family and friends, and some of the amazing people in this town. Within that 35 years, I've met some incredible people. I've seen some incredible things, and really been able to experience some very incredible things. I've witnessed the airliner fly right over my head into the Pentagon in 9/11. I've seen miracles in Italy. I've seen miracles in hospital beds in Iraq. I've been entrusted with responsibilities and assets of the country's highest value, even up until this very day. But all that said, of course, I'm grateful for the recognition. But frankly, I can't accept this alone. My story is only half the story. Nothing is possible without God. There's one other person in here tonight. There's one other person in here tonight that nothing in my bio would have been possible without. Along with hundreds and maybe thousands of other kids just like me, who throughout the decades have been inspired, uplifted, touched. The real hero tonight, all the fame goes to someone else. Person who taught me about faith, service, the one who has always been there through the best and worst of times. Who first told me, aim for the stars and fall in the trees. Gave me life in 1967. And even brought me back to life again in 2007. That person is my mother, a Gold Star mom. It's my wife. So thank you again. Thank you for the challenge and the opportunity to continue to pay it forward.
Our next inductee was not a native of Humboldt, Tennessee. Peter Howard was not a native. He was our great Englishman that moved to our community. But wherever Peter lived, he always came back to the community where he did live. Moved to Humboldt in the year 2000. And he loved the idea of his hometown thriving and wanted to help. Planting his first grapevines in 2004, HRH Vineyard was born and later became the largest vineyard in Tennessee. Shortly afterwards, Crown Winery was built, which sold his award-winning wines as well as hosting hundreds of weddings, tours, parties, and tourists. It gave employment to local musicians, artists, farm workers, and salespersons. HRH Vineyard utilized the only mechanical grape picker in Tennessee. When the energy crisis peaked in 1978, Peter relocated to the United States with his wife and sons to help the automotive industry build more fuel-efficient vehicles. From there, he developed Team 100, T-E-E-M 100, a fitness instrument which was sent by Russia to the Mir Space Laboratory for astronaut training. This device is still used by Olympic teams, college sports teams, hospitals, and fitness facilities all over the world. A direct descendant of Sir Luke Howard, the father of meteorology, who named the different kinds of clouds, Peter Howard was an engaging Englishman with many capabilities and talents. A loving husband, a devoted father and grandfather, a gas physicist, an engineer, an inventor, a scientist, a real estate developer, a farmer, a rancher, a vintner, a viticulturist, a public speaker, a poet, a pianist, and an athlete. Locally, Peter was a member of the Humboldt Rotary Club. It was always great to see him at our Rotary meetings. For his many contributions to the scientific community and for the enjoyment of wine consumers everywhere, the 2019 Humboldt Hall of Fame inducts Sir Charles Peter Howard. Second, speaking on their father's behalf are his sons, Peter, Doug, and Winston, and they will be speaking as after Amanda gives them the plaque in that order.
Thank you, Mike, for that wonderful introduction to my father. You pretty much said everything that I'm going to say, so I'm just going to repeat it. On behalf of my late father, Peter Howard, I'd like to thank the people of Humboldt for bestowing this wonderful and prestigious honor upon him. My dad first discovered Humboldt in the early 70s, and that was soon after he met my mother, Rita. And for the first 25 years of their marriage, was only a visitor. We spent many childhood summers traveling back and forth from Michigan to visit my grandmother, Leona Wilson, on Sherry Carroll Drive, who some of you may remember. Many years later, he's being recognized today as a contributor to the community, and I know that my dad, as humble as he was, would be proud to stand here in front of this group, a respected member of the Humboldt community. Today, I'd like to offer a message that is what I think my dad would say or want. Of course, I can't do it in his British accent or somewhat eccentric mannerisms, but I can express what I think would be important to him. He didn't arrive at this place in life without the help and support of the people nearest to him. For my dad, that is his family and friends, that through thick and thin have been there. I know that he'd want to thank his children, which myself being one of them is awkward to state, but I believe true. You see, my dad was an inventor, and as everyone knows, an inventor has a lab, and for years that lab was over on Leewood Drive. Prior to that, living on our family farm in Ann Arbor, we, his children, spent many hours assisting him with whatever project was at hand. I could go as far as to say we were perhaps his metaphorical guinea pigs. There was always an invention that needed testing, and well, we were there, waiting his potential. Now, we weren't always test subjects, and for me personally, one of my most memorable contributions to my dad's adventure in life was assisting him on the farm. Spending late hours behind the wheel of a combine harvester, my dad's favorite farm implement, and honestly, I think the primary reason to getting this was why he got into farming many years ago. And for those of you who have visited the Crown Winery, you may have seen the grape picker, the combine harvester of the winery, which he had to have. For those of you that befriended my dad, I would like to thank you along with my dad. His friends were a vital part of his being, and if you were a friend of my dad, you know he made you feel important and needed. And this is a bit of a charmer, but my dad would also like to thank his dog. I think that his dog was a really important part of his life, and he was always talking to his dog. There was always a dog. For those of you that know my father, they know Inca well. Before there was Inca, there was Samantha. Before Samantha, there was Priscilla. And you get the point. There was always a dog in my dad's life. And for my dad, his dog was a sounding board that helped him work through his nervous energy and helped him develop his thoughts. We know dogs can't talk, but you couldn't tell that to my dad. There was always a dialogue taking place. Above all, my dad would thank my mother. It's because of my mom that he was empowered to do all the things that he did. My dad was not necessarily an organized person, nor was he much of a planner. But fortunately, my mom is. And as he wandered down the inventor's road, she kept him aligned and kept the bills paid, literally. And Dad wasn't just an inventor of things, but also loved all life's adventures. He was always looking for the next thing to do. He was never a man to sit still or wait for things to come to him. My mother enabled him and escalated his ability to move his inventions and adventures forward. Although I wasn't there, looking back, I believe that it wasn't until my mom entered the picture that his projects become fruition and his adventures grow grander. He needed the completeness that came to my mom, and without her, he'd probably still be digging potatoes in the farms of England. That's true. Finally, my dad would also want to use this moment to inspire all the other inventors and adventure seekers out there, to encourage them to find themselves through science and learning, to apply their minds and skills to help make the world a better place, to not be afraid to see what's around the corner and engage with the unknown. He believed that every person has an opportunity to improve our civilization, and we're only using 10% of our abilities to do so. I'd like to suggest that when we look at his picture on the Humboldt Wall of Fame, if there is one, to think about how much better this world could be. We all approach life with the same regard that my father did.
Hello, everyone. I'm Douglas Howard. I'm Peter's middle son. I'm here today to share an aspect of my father's life that many of you may not know. I'm going to start with a story from when I was a child. I think I was in about the 3rd grade. Late one night, long after I was supposed to be asleep, I looked out my window. I could see something in the lower building of the farm from my bedroom window, and the light was on. I knew my father was working down there most every night, but I really had no idea what he was working on. Mom probably threw him out of the bedroom for fidgeting or something, and I guess that's probably because he had many things on his mind. So I went down the stairs and snuck out the front door. I headed down the hill, and when he saw me, he opened the door. He said, "Shouldn't you be asleep, son?" he said. I replied, "I can't sleep, and I just want to know what you're up to." He said, "Have a seat for a minute, but you're going back to bed very soon." I heard the term lab around the house, but I never really knew what it was. What I saw amazed me that night. He had all these very precise cutting tools and a spinning lathe. If any of you know what that is, it's just, plastic bits were everywhere, including the floor. He put some huge safety glasses on me and started spinning parts on the lathe and cutting them down to precise dimensions. Plastic was spiraling everywhere. I asked him, "What are you working on?" He replied, "A new gas analyzer for fitness." At that point, I knew my father was very different from other dads. He was something very special, and after a while, he walked me back up to the house and put me back in bed. Premise here. My father studied at AEI Salford Technical College and earned a degree in electrical engineering. He began his career at British Oxygen in London, where he served as a research assistant in the analysis of gases. He then was offered a position at an industrial company where he shortly was made head of instruments and catalyst production of pharmaceuticals. In 1971, my father formed his first company, Drovewood, which he later sold after 5 years. This new company immediately promoted him to general manager of a subsidiary which manufactured gas instruments. At this point, my father had earned the title of gas physicist. In 1978, as you've already heard, he was brought over to the U.S., Michigan, to work with the automotive industry to help in the development of catalytic converters and specifically gas analyzers, CO2 emissions. He soon joined a company in Ann Arbor, Michigan, Sensors Incorporated. He then bought Sensors and later sold it in 1987. At this point, he was looking to retire from his career and purchase a farm. If any of you know my father, he loved outside and agriculture, and most of you probably know that side of him very well. And it was an agricultural dream of his for 10 years since he moved to America. I think he just wanted to play with some big tractors, honestly. After some years of farming, a good friend, former neighbor, and captain of the space shuttle, Colonel Jack Lausman, asked him why he couldn't apply his knowledge of gases to the fitness industry. NASA was always looking for better ways to ensure their astronauts were in the best physical shape possible to survive the rigors of space. Anyone who knew my father knew he was never content in one place for very long. So he decided to get back to his lab and begin a new chapter. His fitness research involved the study of 3 things: volume of breathing, amount of oxygen absorbed, and CO2 exhausted. He found a professor at the University of Michigan to aid him academically. He also recruited a software electronics architect, and together they eventually pioneered a new analyzer, the Team 100. This is one of the first instruments that could accurately analyze a person's VO2 max. This is the peak amount of oxygen your body can metabolize. These individuals together formed Aerosport Incorporated to market this analyzer to the world. Today, VO2 max has become a norm. Health clubs and athletic trainers across the world use these measurements to assess a person's peak aerobic fitness. I am very proud that my father was one of its first pioneers. While I attended the University of Michigan, we had the privilege to work hand in hand together at Aerosport. This is when I really began to understand how amazing he was. He taught me how to work in his lab. I was also getting very good with CAD, and together we automated most of his analyzers by implementing CNC workflows. We worked together on new, more comfortable breathing masks. a redesign of the Team 100 to a smaller and more compact VO2000, and a space station compatible version of the Team 100 for the International Space Station. It had to withstand 40 times the pull of gravity and contain no unapproved polymers or plastics, so basically a full redesign. Looking back, this was such a special time for us. I really loved the opportunity to better understand the wonderful complexities and genius of my father. Excuse me. Some years later, after Mom and Dad moved to Humboldt, he embarked on his third big idea as a gas physicist. I remember we were down at Talladega. If anybody know him, he loved racing. We were all camping out and having fun. We could see him working on something with an empty 2-liter bottle of Mountain Dew. He said, we need to let this sit in the sun, and when we get back from the race, it's gonna be good. So we went to the race and came back. Most likely very unsafe. He opened the bottle and lit the top. A huge blue fireball came bursting out. He explained that he was working on a solar-powered electrolysis chip that turns water and solar energy into hydrogen. This was so interesting and very real right before our eyes. His dream was to put these in everyone's roof shingles to generate hydrogen during the day and store it at night using fuel cells. The beauty of this idea was, unlike solar power panels, your house would always have power in the form of cleanly burning hydrogen day or night. You could truly be off the power grid. Unfortunately, that's as far as this idea went. He ran out of time doing something he loved very, very much, running the vineyard and making wine at the Crown Winery. I am so thrilled to have been able to share this part of my father's life with you. My father was a kind and loving man who always appreciated to make everyone feel welcome. I know he is ecstatic somewhere up there and truly honored to be inducted into the Humboldt Hall of Fame. Please welcome my little brother Winston.
Well, I'm bigger than one of them at least. Hi everyone, it's so great to be back in Humboldt. This is a place that we've called home, a second home for almost 40 years, and it's an honor to be able to share a little bit about my dad's life. I also have the pleasure of seeing my mom also get inducted today. Just to round this out, Dad was a creative man, as you've heard, with many talents and strengths, who always had to have a new venture or he would get bored. Although he was a gas physicist and engineer, his greatest love was agriculture. Wherever we lived, we always had a large vegetable garden, and when we lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan, we had a ranch with 300 cattle. When Mom and Dad moved to Humboldt in 2000, they soon bought the hilly Hamilton farm, and Dad decided to plant just a few grapevines. I think it was like 1 or 2 at the start, and now I think it's about 35 acres of grapes. They decided they needed to make wine and needed a winery, which, to be honest, a perfect combination for a man who loved working with gases, soils, he loved drinking, and entertaining. Neither Mom nor Dad could ever do anything small, and so they designed a large and beautiful Tuscan villa, which hosted over 600 weddings and over 200 parties. With his apprentice and later manager, Taylor Barker, who's here today helping him, as well as advisors from the University of Tennessee, the vineyard grew substantially over 10 years. When Mom sold the Crown Winery in 2017, it was the largest vineyard in Tennessee, with 21 miles of vines and 7 grape varieties, and the only one powered by solar energy. Crown Winery brought hundreds of tourists to Humboldt through Groupon, Living Social, and donated gala charitable coupons for wine tasting and tours. Dad and Taylor led these tours. One young lady from Memphis bought 5 different Groupon tours. On the last tour, he said, "I've seen you here before," of which she answered, "Yes, I've been here 5 times and love the tours because I learn something new every time, and I just love to hear you talk." It's true. Yes, my dad was a charmer. Friday night wine downs were his time to shine, and a huge hit both in this community and surrounding areas, making the Crown Winery the destination for live music, great wine, and an overall time to connect with family and friends. Many of their wines won gold awards nationwide. As their business was beginning to peak, and as he never was content with the status quo, he was looking for new ways to attract tourists to the area. So what did he do? He built an amphitheater. And sure enough, it rained for all but one of the shows. My brother added a touch of humor at a sad time when he spoke at Dad's funeral and said, "Dad is smiling down right now because this is actually the largest crowd he's had at the amphitheater." Now, this amphitheater may not have fully delivered against his original vision, but he always sought to find new ways to build his business and bring tourism to the city he called home, Humboldt. Regarding another side of Dad, he lived for the sea. After the three of us finished college and left home, he bought a 54-foot Bertram yacht he named the Sugar Plum, which was his pet name for Mom, earned his captain's license, and he and Mom spent the winter months in the Bahamas. Yet again, he found a way to delay settling down by coming up with the idea of capturing hydrogen from the ocean as an energy source. Again, he just couldn't sit still. Through his extensive background and expertise in gas physics, he believed hydrogen leaking through the cracks in the seafloor in the Bermuda Triangle was one of the main reasons why boats and planes were sinking and crashing. At the time, I had just graduated from Arizona State University and joined him on this new venture, mostly because I didn't have a job and come on Bahamas for a few months, no-brainer. In order to explore the area, Dad built, and right here in Humboldt, a 10-foot pontoon raft, which had a computer and analyzer affixed to take measurements, and off Dad and I went from the Sugar Plum here in Tennessee all the way to the Bermuda Triangle in this boat and in this tiny raft. And his theory was spot on. He found holes in the seafloor where excess hydrogen was leaking, recorded this on tape, and figured out how major gas companies could pipe gas to the mainland. He was always a visionary. You've heard it time and time again from both of my brothers. He was a forward-thinking pioneer who, for most of his life, was well ahead of current times. Our dad was not only a truly and brilliant original, he was a great father to all three of us, a loving husband to our mother. He's always supported us in every activity that we were involved in. And even though he's been gone from us for the past 3 years, we all still cherish the advice, memories, and his love. I personally wish to thank the Chamber and the people of Humboldt for recognizing and honoring the uniqueness of a Brit who felt more welcome here than anywhere else he lived in the States and loved calling Humboldt home. Thank you.
Bishop Gilbert Earl G.E. Patterson. Gilbert Earl Patterson was an American Pentecostal holiness leader and minister who served as the International Bishop and Chief Apostle of the Church of God in Christ, COGIC Incorporated, elected as bishop in the year 2000, serving until his death in 2007. Bishop Patterson was born in Humboldt in 1939. Parents Bishop W.A. and Mary Louise Williams Patterson in a parsonage next door to the Church of God in Christ, and he was the youngest of 6 children. He grew up in Memphis and was saved at the age of 11 at a revival at Holy Temple, COGIC, which had been founded by his father. Later, the family moved to Detroit, where he answered the call to ministry at age 16. He was ordained in 1958 as an elder in the church. In 1962, Patterson became co-pastor with his father at Holy Temple Church of God in Christ, Memphis. He continued his pastorate in 1975 as the founder and pastor of Temple of Deliverance, the Cathedral of the Bountiful Blessings near downtown Memphis. Temple of Deliverance of COGIC is one of the fastest growing congregations with over 18,000 on its membership roll. In 2000, Calhoun Street, where Bountiful Blessings is located, was renamed G.E. Patterson Avenue in honor of the bishop. Patterson studied at the Detroit Bible Institute, later known as William Tyndale College, and at Owen College in Memphis. He held an honorary doctorate from Oral Roberts University. Bishop Patterson was an author as well as a minister. In addition to being a contributor in the Spirit-Filled Life, he was the author of a critically acclaimed book, Here Comes the Judge. He was the subject of numerous feature articles in Newsweek, Ebony, Jet, and Charisma magazines. In 2007, the United States Senate passed a resolution celebrating the life of Bishop Patterson. Sponsors of the resolution were Senators Barack Obama, Carl Levin, John Kerry, Lamar Alexander, and Bob Corker. Patterson was a member of the 9-person team which invited Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to Memphis for the sanitation workers' strike. His work as champion of civil rights earned him many awards. In 1993, Patterson opened the doors of Temple of Deliverance to the community and began serving free hot meals daily. In 2002, he chartered Kojic Charities Incorporated, which has assisted victims of natural disasters, both foreign and domestic, as well as other charitable efforts to uplift humanity. During his career, Bishop Patterson organized 7 churches across the country. His character, his leadership, and his powerful preaching extended his influence far beyond the church he loved so dearly. His ministry on television endeared him to saints and sinners across the nation and around the world. He was loved and respected by leaders in the church world, and people across America responded to his passionate preaching of Jesus Christ. For his many accomplishments and in recognition of his outstanding leadership, we today induct Bishop Gilbert Earl Patterson into the 2019 Humboldt Hall of Fame.
Mrs. Patterson is unable to be here today. Her sister passed away, and it's taken a toll on her body. My name is Doreen Graves, and I'm Chief of Staff for the Bountiful Blessings Ministry, and I'm here to represent her today. William Barclay said, "There are 2 great days in a person's life: the day they were born and the day they discovered why they were born." I believe that both of these days started for Bishop Patterson with God's people in mind. As you said, he was born here in Humboldt, Tennessee in 1939, September the 22nd. His parents enjoyed seeing him grow up. His father looked at him with such compassion and bestowed upon him the same powerful ministry that his dad had. His life was committed to serving people and instructed them that they could be healed, delivered, and set free. Bishop Patterson married Louise Dowdy Patterson, and she became his best student. And now his legacy lives on in the lives of many people today. Many of them you may know. Former President Bill Clinton said, "Bishop Patterson was my friend." Former First Lady Michelle Obama said, "He was a community activist." Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. remembered him as part of the 9-person strategy team that brought him to Memphis, Tennessee for that sanitation strike. His wife knows him as the light of her life, and and she borrowed this phrase from a great manufacturer, and she says that GE brings good things to life. In Humboldt, Tennessee, well, you know him as a native son. I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I want to tell you a personal story of mine with Bishop Patterson. During his last days on earth, I had to go to see about my dad in Brooklyn, New York. And I was on my way back and in the airport, and I called to check on him. And his wife answered the phone. And I said, how's he doing? And she said, well, strangely enough, I told him that you were on the phone and he wants to talk to you. And I said, oh, okay. Now I'm in a busy airport. And I said, Bishop, everything okay? And he said, yes. How's your father? I've been praying for him. Not too long after that, he passed away. But in that airport, it took all of my composure to hold my tears back. Because here's this man in his last days of life, still doing what God has called him to do, to reach out to people, to be concerned, and to minister to God's people. I felt very honored and privileged to serve him. And I want to thank you all for honoring somebody that's very dear to my heart.
For our fourth inductee, I'm going to go off my script just a little bit. I've known Rita Wilson Howard longer than anybody else in Humboldt. You probably don't believe that. Rita and I were in the same school in the Edison community. I was 1 year ahead of her in school. She, I guess, wised up and moved into Humboldt. I stayed at the country two-teacher school for 3 more years. But that was great, and I have always treasured my friendship with Rita. I've followed her career and been aware of the things that she has been involved in throughout all these years. Although she has lived in many states and countries, she always has considered Humboldt her hometown. Many of us remember Rita's days of leading the Humboldt High School Band in many parades and performances across the area, state, and nation. Rita is the recipient of 89 local, state, and national beauty and talent honors, including Miss Tennessee 1961, all of which placed her in the National Pageantry Hall of Fame. As a champion baton twirler and the first female drum major of an NCAA Division I band, she was one of the first inductees into the National Baton Twirling Hall of Fame. Rita is a strong advocate of higher education and has helped numerous young people to receive college scholarships. She has coached 11 Miss America state winners from 6 states, many local pageant winners, and 27 national baton champions in various areas and levels of baton. She is a graduate of Northwestern University with a degree in theater and has been a professional actress for 15 years. Returning to Humboldt in 2000, as we've already mentioned, she and her British husband, Peter Howard, built HRH Vineyards and Crown Winery, where she served as CEO. One of Rita's priorities is community service. She has served as president of the Humboldt Healthcare Foundation, as well as being a member of several charitable and educational boards in both Michigan and Tennessee. She, along with her parents, were founders of the First Cumberland Presbyterian Church in Humboldt, where she has remained a member throughout the years. The great joys in her life are her sons that you have just met, and 6 grandchildren, seeing all 3 sons graduate from their respective universities and become successful and happy in their own lives. Rita considers motherhood the most worthwhile and important job of her own life. For her many personal accomplishments and for taking the name of her hometown around the world, Rita Louise Wilson Howard is inducted into the 2019 Humboldt Hall of Fame.
Can I move this? Otherwise I'll probably thinking it everywhere. If Peter were still here with us, he would say with his adorable British humor, "Well, Reeds, I guess when the chamber decided to put me in the Hall of Fame, they said, oops, we better put Rita in too or she'll get her knickers in a twist." And for you that don't know the word knickers in the English slang, you can ask me what it is later. Seriously, I would like to say thank you so much, Chamber, for thinking both of us credible in joining this these distinguished Humboldtons that have entered in the past. A lot of these are my friends, and certainly the 2 distinguished men that have joined it today. I enjoyed speaking because my godson is a Navy SEAL and was in Annapolis when he was, so that was kind of exciting. This is truly a great honor, and I would not be enjoying this moment if it were not for many individuals who have mentored, encouraged, and or helped a little girl from Vine Street to do her best in whatever she attempted. How fortunate, very fortunate I was to be blessed with the parents that the good Lord gave me. Mom and Dad made incredible sacrifices in both finances and time to help me along the way. For instance, baton camp in Arkansas was as much as my dad made in a week. But I always went to baton camp. He always made sure. Mom, for you that may not know this, I never wore a gown that we bought in any pageant out of all those pageants until actually the year that I won Miss Tennessee. Mother borrowed gowns. She called everybody she knew that we couldn't afford to buy a gown. They were expensive. And for all of those girls that loaned me gowns over the years, thank you. 1 or 2 of them said I shouldn't have loaned you that gown, but that's okay. For young girls, if there are any here that think they can't afford to be in pageants or do anything, where there's a will, there's a way. I learned that. I'm grateful to all those girls, as I said, who loaned me gowns. My parents have a strong Christian background, and as Mike told you, they were founders of the First Cumberland Presbyterian Church here. That's always been my home. And wherever I've lived, that's been my church home. I certainly would not be standing here today if it weren't for a sergeant from World War II, Bill Day. He selected me drum major of the C band and taught me to lead like a sergeant. Tough but fair, demanding and forceful, which eventually allowed me to be the first woman drum major of the Division I band and a full scholarship to Ole Miss, and led me to be one of the first inductees in Baton Twirling Hall of Fame, which Mike told you. But some of the instruction being a sergeant is probably why I never won Miss Congeniality in any pageant. Those who were in the band with me, if there are any of you here, you probably know what I mean by that. There are some other teachers that really inspired me and helped me. All of my teachers were wonderful, but these four made a big difference in my life, and I would like to mention them. Ewing Jackson, who taught me to value English, Joe Booth, Mrs. Riceley, and Mrs. Donovan Long. They're friends and mentors, and my goodness, there are hundreds, and I wish I could list them all, but Mike's telling me how much time I have up here. I'd like to thank Dr. Herman Ray Stallings. He has no idea how much he meant to me in the beginning and encouraged me. And even though I may look awful, he always said I looked good and it made me feel good. Dr. Irving Fielderman from Memphis, Judy Bowers, Cousin Tuny from Jackson, Suzanne Caldwell, who was my idol, Frida and Bernie Shepherd, Ruth Ann, Jerry, and Jack Smith, who judged me many times, and I never lost to them. I really like them. Mayor Dan Scott, wonderful to me. The Humboldt and Jackson JCs, Beauty Mart, the dry cleaners, and many of those neighbors. And this is when I was Miss Tennessee, I would come in from 11 appearances that day and come in at midnight and have to leave at 6 the next morning. The neighbors and the women from the church would come in and grab my laundry to help Mom out and wash it that night and get it back to me. So would the dry cleaners, incredible. Many other businesses in town just helped me so much, not just in awards and things, but in just making me feel special. I'd like to thank the Humboldt Police, because as many of you probably don't know, the paparazzi was after me. That was in the early days, and they kept them straight. Some of you may remember that. They were coming to my house and causing some problems. Anyway, and also we had some protesters who didn't like the fact I was appearing in the paper in a swimsuit. Anyway, Governor Ellington, my good friend, and the State Highway Patrol, all those troopers, everywhere I drove, I had a trooper with me for my own safety. And of course, my dear and devoted friend, Joe Kincaid, who took a baton twirler and turned her into a singer, or somewhat of a singer. Other than his sister Debbie, who Joe and I then later both trained for Miss Tennessee, and she won it and won talent for Miss America. I was his first student. Joe was my accompanist, and bless him, whenever he could feel that I was going to hit a bad note, and I could hit lots of those, he got really loud and started playing the piano really loud to go with. Great friend. Yes, I was basically a baton twirler, competitive baton twirler, and although I never really considered being in pageants, Miss Tennessee changed my life. And I could speak in front of Congress now, and it wouldn't bother me. I truly wish that every young woman could experience the opportunities that I felt traveling the state and the country as Miss Tennessee. As for pageants, I learned very quickly that interviews wins pageants. And I certainly wasn't the most beautiful, nor most talented, nor the tallest, nor the best figure, nor the smartest. But I learned the hard way that the top 5 question means winning or losing. How many of you, raise your hand for me, if you were the pageant at Rothrock Stadium the first year I was in it, 1959? Is that Rosemary? I thought so. Okay, you will remember, Rosemary will remember what I was about to tell her. First year, I was in Miss Tennessee, just out of Humboldt High School, 18 years old. Top 5 question was, of all the living American presidents, who do you admire most? And I gave what I thought was a very decent answer and said Abraham Lincoln. And, you know, I mean, it was pretty good. And I even used the word living in my answer. I ended up at 18 years old, second runner-up, and thrilled to be that far along, and made great friends with Dixie Carter, who was first runner-up. She was my roommate and lifelong friend, and I still think she should have won it. I did then, and still she should have. But anyway, on the way home, Dad said to me, "Sis, did it ever dawn on you that old Honest Abe died a few years ago?" And then it hit me why the audience got so quiet after that. Well, after I won the title 2 years later, lots of the JCs, whom I became great friends with, told me, they said, you know, you actually had the pageant won till the top 5 question that first year. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, so I learned. After that, I listened to that top 5 question very carefully, and I made sure I answered it right. And lots of times, I ended up winning sometimes. All the state title holders in Miss America and Miss USA used to go to Daytona Beach, Florida for the Miss Dixie pageant. They don't have it anymore, sadly. But I went with my sister-in-law, Marcy Wilson, my brother Don's wife, whose daughter is here today. And everybody thought Marcy was a contestant. They kept taking her picture, and I kept saying, "Excuse me, I'm the contestant." Marcy's very lovely. Anyway, she was my chaperone. That was a week that I couldn't do anything wrong. My hair didn't even frizz in the humidity in Florida. I couldn't believe how everything was going. I ended up winning every single preliminary, even talent singing, of which I was stunned. The scholarship awards for the prelim wins and the overall title amounted to $42,000, 1962. More than Miss America won at the time. Having been out of college for a year from Miss Tennessee and then 4 months doing Gypsy at Front Street Theater in Memphis, I knew I wanted to change my major from pre-med to theater. And even though I loved Ole Miss, I knew that theater at Northwestern was the best school in the United States for theater. I had the money to go there then, so off to Chicago I go. I had won enough scholarship money as well, even after I graduated from Northwestern, to go to New York. I studied 14 hours a day, 5 days a week, in actor studio, ballet with the the New York City Ballet Company, jazz with Luigi, and opera with Mae Browner, who was the coach for the Metropolitan Opera. So I had incredible training. Then, and then I sang on the weekends at the World's Fair. That gave me a little extra spending money. After New York, it was Hollywood. A few minor roles in films, If You Blink, You Miss Me. A lot of TV shows, did a little bit better in those. And then with my lifelong friend's help, Wink Martindale, introducing to me to his top agent named Harry Abrams of Abrams Rubaloff, I still get residuals from commercials I've made in America and Europe. Tremendously. I just had what they call a chameleon face. I guess I could look good or bad, depending how they wanted me. I've been blessed, very, very blessed. An exciting career and traveling the world as well as living abroad. Marrying a man who, to say the least, was brilliant and unique, whom I love with all my heart and I miss every day. He gave me 3, as you've met, successful, thoughtful. They want me in Chicago with them. Delightful sons. A lovely daughter-in-law. 5 grandsons, fun, who I've gotten to know, and a granddaughter, 1. I'm finally getting to really know those grandchildren, and I'm very grateful to be living with them, and I also know, by the way, which I told a few people, one, they give children to young people. I'm worn out. You may play with my grandchildren. I'm also very grateful to have had a part in the training of hundreds of young women in pageants, my daughters, including Miss America state title winners, and which he mentioned, and most of these students receiving college scholarships and helping them out in education. I know one of my former baton students and pageant students is here. Are there any others here that give baton or pageant? Rosemary, you can stand, because she was my Miss Majorette at Tennessee. Stand up, Rosemary, come on. Okay. Is there anyone else here that I thought, oh darn, I was hoping there'd be a lot of them here. Okay, not great. At 14 years old, I opened my first baton studio in Humboldt, in a basement of a neighbor. We had, and then Miss, I had over 100 students while I was drum major in the band. Having been a competitive judge since the age of 18, I've continued to love my sport over the years. And when we moved back to America in 1978, I opened a large studio in Michigan. During the 15-year period, as Mike told you, 27 of my boys and girls won some national titles in the different areas of baton. And we also, our team won the drill team, national champion drill team. That was thanks to Bill Day, I would say. We performed at Disney World and were asked to come back. And we brought 40 students here. I don't know if any of you saw us to the Humboldt for the homecoming, for the parade. I'm grateful for the opportunities I've had to sit on several charitable boards in both Michigan, England, and Tennessee, working alongside people who unselfishly give of their time to others, and I'm very grateful that I've had that opportunity. Crown Winery, I really didn't have any notes on it because the boys were talking about it, but this was not something I planned to get involved in. Peter was going to plant a few grapevines, and we ended up planting a few, but I didn't know a bit about weddings, and so I decided to do this. Well, as they can tell you, the owners now that have the Crown Winery, and thank you for buying it, I am really, I really enjoyed the weddings, and that sort of thing was wonderful. And goodness knows, Taylor Barker is like a fourth son to me. Love him to death. Anyway, the Crown Winery was a very special time in our lives. And when Peter said he was going to make wine, I said, excuse me? Because chemistry was not one of his strong points. And I was a little nervous about it, but it was good. It wasn't bad at all. We had fun. The only argument we had was on the amphitheater, which my boys told you about. But as I said, Peter, you're starting going into the entertainment industry is like me trying to build one of your instruments. So anyway, he still loved it. One of my close friends, who is here today, once said to me, Reach, you've lived 9 lives in one. And I said, you know what, yeah, that's true. I've learned from living in 7 states and 4 countries, and in traveling the world, to respect individuals of every race, every color, every religion, every sex, every economic status. I've learned that not everyone thinks like an American. I've been a member of the international jet set, and I've seen the slums of Brazil and Africa. Having friends on a first-name basis who are major stars in film and business and medicine, politics, and royalty, I know in general we are all basically the same. We want good health, we want our family to be happy, we want success in whatever our strengths are. If I may, I'd like to end with one of the most interesting experiences that I've encountered in my world travels. For the first time in Arab history, a woman was chosen as the guest of honor. at a dinner given by the emirs of the Trucial States. I, of course, had to meet with the ambassador and at the embassy and get all the rules, because there's protocol to be followed. And he informed me I had to wear a long dress with long sleeves. That was fine. I had a beautiful gold-threaded caftan that the King of Morocco had given me about 3 months before. And he said, you'll have to curtsy to the chefs. I said, oh, no problem. I'm good at curtsy. You'll be served a sheep's eye, which you will eat with one hand and a gulp. And you will need to belch at the end of your meal to show your appreciation to the chefs. I said, I don't think I can do either of those last two things. And which he replied, oh, yes, you will. Very firmly. So the evening began. I did my proper curtsy to each of the chefs. That's sheep in English, that's the Arabic pronunciation. Entered the dining room in the Palace of Dubai, which was a very, very small place then. I can't believe it now. And sat at the head of a U-shaped table with 40 men all around me. A bowl of couscous was placed right in front of me, and that sheep's eye was looking straight at me. I said a quick prayer. I picked up the eye as fast as I could and swallowed it whole. It was kind of like an oyster. It really had no taste, so it wasn't the end of the world. Then, to my disappointment, there was nothing. No one clapped. No, nothing. I mean, I thought everyone would, get excited. No, they just started eating. So, as the meal finished, the chef is standing behind me, and he doesn't look very happy. And he said to me in Arabic then, you didn't enjoy your dinner. Oh, I remember. Oh my gosh, I got to belch. I said, oh no, shukran, which means, oh yes, in Arabic. It means, oh yes, thank you, I did. So I gave the most pathetic little belch you've ever heard in your life, but I managed to get one out. And at that point, that room erupted with the most disgusting sounds of 40 men belching. I mean, really belching all over that room. Anyway, the rest of the evening went well. I managed to get through it. And the next day, the Sheikh of Humboldt invited me to his palace for tea. And while I was there, I said, oh, I had helped him buy some gifts for his wives, and when he came to London. So I said, could I meet your wives and see your harem? And he certainly said yes, And so I went with these two big guards standing on each side of the door like this. I'm talking big. And I went in. And the wives were in perfect order, 1, 2, 3, 4, and about 20 concubines around the other side, and all of the little infant children running around. And I'm positive I'm the only one in this room that's ever seen the inside of a harem. And I know none of you men have. This is only one of some of the unique adventures of my lifetime. And may I say again, thank you to my hometown friends, to the chamber, to Mike, for considering both Pete and me worthy of this induction. I am most grateful, and I know Pete would be. It's good to be home. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, those are our inductees into the 2019 Humboldt Hall of Fame. I think you will appreciate the effort that the committee went through in selecting these inductees this year. It's always a challenge, but I think you'll agree with me that we made excellent choices. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for coming today, and we appreciate your attendance.